My parents secretly replaced my furniture for months. Then I caught them red-handed, planning for my sister to move in without telling me. I'm 33 years old and live in a great one-bedroom apartment that I've been renting for about 3 years. I work full-time as a software developer with a very regular 9-to-5 schedule, and I live alone. My parents live around 20 minutes away, and they do have an extra key for emergencies, which I'm strongly considering right now. Over the last month, I've noticed some strange changes in my flat. Small things at the beginning. My coffee table, which was originally a dark wood finish, transformed into this lighter oak item. I stared at it for 10 minutes one evening, convinced that I was losing my mind. I called my friend Kevin to see if he remembered what my coffee table looked like, and he agreed that it was definitely darker before. When I told it to my mother during our weekly phone contact, she chuckled and claimed I had probably mixed it up with furnishings from my previous residence. Then my kitchen chair started changing. I had several black metal ones with grey cushions. They weren't fancy, but they worked. Last Monday, I returned home to find white wooden chairs with floral cushions. Floral. I am a 33-year-old man who works in it and plays guitar in his leisure time. When would I have picked flowered cushions? The bathroom towels came next. My simple navy blue towels were replaced by a delicate pink set with small ornamental borders. I stood in my bathroom holding these towels, wondering if I was having a breakdown. I don't remember purchasing pink towels. I'd never purchased pink towels. Yet, there they were, beautifully folded in the linen cupboard. Yesterday was the last straw. I returned home to find that my entire living room had been changed. My black leather couch was replaced by a beige fabric sectional with far too many toss cushions. My sleek black entertainment center had been replaced with a rustic farmhouse-style item that appeared like it could have come from a country magazine. I called my folks right away. My father seemed perplexed and said that my landlord had been doing maintenance. My mother questioned if I had been sleep shopping online and forgotten about it. Sleep shopping for furniture I would never ever want. The truth is, all of the new furniture is nice. It's high quality, well organized, and plainly pricey. But that's not me. It's as if someone is gently changing my place into a space for someone else, someone who prefers soft hues and farmhouse aesthetics and appears to have extremely different tastes than me. I have been obsessively checking my bank statements. No furniture purchases. There are no strange charges. Nothing. I checked my emails, my Amazon account, everything. There is no record of my purchasing any of these items. My girlfriend Sarah believes I'm pranking her, but I swear on everything I own that I have no idea what's going on. She came over last night and kept asking when I'd redecorated, and I just stood there like an idiot trying to explain why I hadn't. What's the craziest part? When I go home, everything is always in perfect order. It's not like someone simply threw new furnishings into my apartment. It is thoughtfully placed, even stylized. My books are still on the shelf, my own items are still present, but everything else is gradually changing. I'm beginning to wonder if I should see a doctor. Memory disorders run in my family, and it's possible that I have an early onset condition. But Kevin corroborated the changes he's witnessed, and Sarah has also seen the differences. Has anyone had an experience like this? I feel like I'm living in a strange hybrid of Gaslight and HGTV. I'm thinking about changing my locks, but what if I'm just forgetting that I bought all of this? What if anything is seriously wrong with me? I don't know what to do now. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. You folks were right about the cameras. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who advised me to install security cameras instead of presuming I was having a mental breakdown. Special thanks to the user who suggested the inconspicuous ones that resemble phone chargers. They were perfect. Last Friday, I put 3 cameras. One in the living room disguised as a phone charger, one in the bedroom that seems to be a digital clock, and one in the kitchen concealed as a small speaker. I felt ridiculous doing it, half assuming I was going to record a video of myself sleep, decorating, or something equally embarrassing. On Wednesday afternoon, everything changed. I was at work debugging some code around 2 p.m. when I received a motion alert on my phone. I launched the app, expecting to see my cat, which does not exist, or perhaps a maintenance worker I had forgotten about. Instead, I watched my parents walk into my apartment as if they owned it. My mother was holding what appeared to be a catalogue or magazine, pointing and chatting to my father. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but her body language was very much. This goes here, that goes there. My father was measuring my current bookcase with a tape measure. They spent 45 minutes in my apartment. 45 minutes. They went through each room with my mother taking photos of various artifacts with her phone, and my father writing notes in his notebook. At one point, my mother sat on my new beige couch and spread out what I now recognize were fabric samples on the coffee table. I saved all of the tape and confronted them that evening, arriving at their residence with my laptop and ready for questions. The talk that followed felt unreal. When I showed my mother the video, her first reaction was not one of shame or surprise. It was annoying that I had spied on them. My father inquired about the cost of the cameras, as they appeared to be rather professional. This is when things get crazy, boys. They didn't even bother to hide what they were doing when I caught them. My mother described it as a totally regular family pastime. Apparently, my sister Jessica is returning to town in 2 months following her divorce, and she will be residing with me for a time until she can get back on her feet. I repeat, my sister is moving in with me. This is news to me. According to my parents, they have been progressively replacing my bachelor pad furniture with items more appropriate for a woman in order to create a welcoming environment for Jessica during this tough adjustment. My mother thought my black leather couch was too masculine, and the new sectional would be ideal for sister bonding time. When I explained that I had never agreed to Jessica moving in, my mother looked at me as if I had said something ridiculous. She's your sister, Robert. Family helps family. You have a 1-bedroom apartment, and she needs a place to stay. It's perfect. I explained that no, it's not ideal because it's my apartment, and I never committed to share it with anyone else. My father jumped in with the statistics about how costly rent is, and how Jessica's ex-husband abandoned her in a bad financial situation. My mother also mentioned that Jessica has always appreciated my apartment's potential, and has such superb taste that she could really help me fix it up. The most aggravating thing was that they pretended to be doing me a favor. My mother started saying things like, "Jessica will help with the groceries, and you'll love having family around again, and it'll be just like when you were kids sharing a room." I inquired about the money. The furniture they've been swapping isn't inexpensive. My father casually stated that they had been investing in Jessica's future and wanted to ensure she had pleasant things around her while she was recovering. They appeared to have spent thousands of dollars on the redesigning endeavor. My mother broke down in tears when I informed him Jessica couldn't move in, that I hadn't agreed to it, and that they needed to return my original furnishings. Actual tears. She accused me of being selfish and abandoning my family when Jessica needed it the most. My father expressed disappointment in how I handled the incident, saying that a true man would stand up for his sister. I left without resolving anything, but I made 2 points very clear. Jessica is not moving into my apartment, and they will never enter my area without permission again. I'm changing the locks this weekend, but here's what's bothering me. Has anyone talked to Jessica about this plan? I haven't spoken to her since Christmas, when she said that she was staying with a friend following the divorce. Does she even know about the furniture swapping operation? Is she planning to move in with me? I plan to call her this weekend when I get the locks changed. This entire situation is ridiculous, but I need to know if she's in on it or just as dumb as I was. I am confident that further updates will follow. Update 2. 3 months later, locks have been changed, boundaries have been established, and my parents are not handling the situation well. It's been 3 months since I discovered my parents renovating, and I decided it was time for an update after numerous people messaged me to see how things turned up. First, consider the immediate aftermath. I changed the locks that same weekend, but did not give my parents a new key. This resulted in what my mother characterized as the worst betrayal in our family history. She called me 17 times on the first day. 17. I know because I took a screenshot of the call log before temporarily blocking her number. My father arrived at my flat the next Tuesday with a locksmith, presumably certain he could just have the locks changed back. To his credit, the locksmith requested that I show him my lease and ID before proceeding. When my father couldn't prove he lived there, the person left. Dad spent an additional hour sitting in his car outside my building, calling my work phone and leaving more furious voicemails. The furniture dilemma turned into another nightmare. My parents insisted on disposing of my original pieces because they were being replaced with higher quality things. I suspected this was a falsehood, but proving it was another issue. I went up needing to play hardball. I informed them that they had 1 week to return my original furniture, or I will file a police report for theft and breaking and entering. Suddenly, my old furniture reappeared. It's funny how that worked. They delivered everything while I was at work, leaving it in the hallway outside my apartment in the most passive-aggressive manner possible. My neighbors weren't amused. Mrs. Chen of 4B sent me a message inquiring if I was leaving because a couch was obstructing the fire exit. I called Jessica that weekend. That topic deserves its own post, but the short version is that she was as surprised as I was. She had no knowledge about the furniture swapping or our parents' plans for her to move in with me, and she was humiliated when I informed her what had happened. She'd been residing with her college buddy, Amanda, and had recently signed a lease for her own place across town. The family dynamics have remained tight ever then. My parents went through numerous stages to deal with their unsuccessful strategy. The first step was denial. They insisted Jessica would eventually see my apartment was the superior option. Then came anger. I was ungrateful, greedy, and clearly misunderstood the concept of family. Then comes negotiating. Maybe Jessica could stay on weekends, use my place as a backup, or store some of her belongings there. When I stood firm on all boundaries, they went on what I can only call a guilt attack. Every family gathering became a chance to remind me of all they'd done for me as I grew up. My mother would say things like, "I remember when Robert used to care about family." While handing the potatoes, my father began repeating anecdotes about how close Jessica and I were as youngsters, focusing on how I used to protect her. The breaking point occurred at my cousin Michael's wedding last month. My mother had allegedly informed various relatives that I was going through a terrible time and not speaking to my family. Several relatives and uncles approached me, asking whether everything was fine and if I needed help getting through whatever I was going through. I recognized my parents were intentionally altering the narrative, making me the problem rather than admitting their boundary transgressions. So, I did something I never imagined I would do. I spoke the truth. Everyone who requested got everything. The reactions were mixed, but informative. My Aunt Patricia was outraged and informed me she'd had similar problems with my parents interfering with her children. My Uncle David laughed, saying it sounded just like something my mother would do. My grandma, my mother's mother, grabbed me aside and told me she wasn't shocked and that my mother had always struggled with control difficulties. But the most surprising reaction came from my cousin Sarah, who told me she had always felt sorry for me growing up because she saw how differently my parents treated Jessica and me. She stated that the entire family had noticed, but no one said anything because it was not their place. Learning that others had noticed this pattern for years was both reassuring and irritating. It reaffirmed that I wasn't seeing favoritism, but it also made me question why no one had ever complained. My folks are currently in the sulking period. They attend family gatherings, but hardly speak to me beyond polite hello. My mother makes a point of asking everyone but me how they are doing. My father talks about sports with other family members while blatantly ignoring me. Jessica and I, on the other hand, have started to talk more. She's been a terrific supporter of mine when our parents tried to reopen the apartment dispute. She's also recounted some of her personal experiences with their interference in her life, which has been eye-opening. My apartment's furniture has been returned to its former configuration with the addition of a few new pieces that I personally chose. My black leather sofa has never looked better to me. I maintain the security cameras because trust but verify, right? I have no regrets about standing my stance, but I will not lie, it has been emotionally taxing. Years of family dynamics do not shift overnight. And sometimes I wonder if I should have just followed their plan to keep the peace. But then I remember returning home and finding my living room entirely redone without my permission. And I realize I made the right decision. Boundaries cannot be negotiated even with family, particularly with relatives. Update 3. 6 months later, the conversation that changed everything. I hadn't planned to publish another update, but something happened last week that dramatically changed my perspective on the situation. I think you should hear this. Jessica contacted me last Sunday evening, which is not unusual. We had been conversing more frequently since the furniture incident, but something about her voice was different. She sounded exhausted and furious, which reminded me of how I felt during the weeks when I feared I was losing my mind. "Robert," she replied, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." She proceeded to tell me about her new place. She had been staying there for nearly 4 months, and odd things were happening. At first, she replaced her bathroom towels with new ones and upgraded her kitchen goods. Her throw pillows were changed to ones that looked better with her couch. Sounds familiar. Jessica had been having the same symptoms that I had, but she had attributed it to stress from her divorce and possibly mixing up her stuff during the move. Our parents had a key to her home in case of an emergency, just as they had mine. But last week, she arrived home early from work with a migraine and found Mom reorganizing her bookcase and swapping out picture frames. She had the entire explanation ready. Jessica stated to me, "I'm helping you create a more positive environment, and some of your things are reminders of negative experiences that you should move past." Jessica's talk with our parents appeared to be even more revealing than mine. When Jessica demanded to know what gave them the authority to change her belongings, Mom started into a thorough description of how she had been controlling the family's living arrangements for years. Here's what made my blood run cold. This wasn't new behavior. According to our mother, she had been doing this with both of us for years, and we had never realized it. She told Jessica about instances when she changed out my college dorm decorations because they were too immature. She discussed modifying Jessica's apartment setting when she first married because it didn't work well for entertaining. She remarked that she had updated both of our closets throughout the years, removing ugly outfits and replaced them with nicer options. Jessica and I spoke on the phone for 3 hours that night, exchanging our experiences. Remember how I sometimes couldn't find my favorite shirts or jackets? Remember how Jessica's apartment always seemed to have different accessories whenever I visited? We both attributed these incidents to ordinary forgetfulness or misplacing objects. Our mother had been planning our living areas for years, quietly and confidently, and we'd never questioned it. The furniture swap at my house was not a unique case of excess. It was the inevitable progression of a trend that had been ongoing since we were teenagers. The only reason we noticed this time was that she had become overly ambitious, changing too much, too rapidly. Robert says, "Jessica, I don't think the plan was ever really for me to move in with you. She had been thinking about it since she found Mom in her apartment, and she had a theory. Our parents had been using the concept of Jessica moving in with me to hide their true goal, totally remodeling both of our flats to Mom's specifications. Jessica assumed they would have extended the temporary stay just long enough to finish both places, then come up with a reason why Jessica needed to return to her own apartment. It would have been an ideal scheme. They'd have 2 wonderfully decorated apartments that fit their requirements, and we'd be so preoccupied with the alleged living arrangement that we wouldn't have noticed the incremental alterations to our surroundings. The longer we chatted, the more we realized how deep this was. Our mother had ideas about everything in our lives, our clothes, furniture, food choices, and even our friends, and she'd been acting on them for years so discreetly that we'd adapted, without ever recognizing it. Jessica made a decision that night. She called our parents and told them she was also changing her locks. She also asked that they return everything they had removed from her flat and produce a record of all the changes they had made over the years. The reaction was explosive. Dad called me the next morning, enraged that I had poisoned Jessica against them, making her suspicious. Mom wrote a series of text messages that began with hurt and confusion, and progressed to allegations that we were ganging up on them and being ungrateful for everything they had done to support us. But here's the thing. We were not backing down. This time. For the first time in our lives, Jessica and I stood together against our parents' deception. We've agreed to meet with them this weekend, not to bargain or compromise, but to clearly define our future relationship. There are no more keys to our apartments. No more surprises improve our living conditions. There will be no more life-changing decisions made without our input. I know some people may argue we're being too harsh, that there are parents who love us and are only trying to assist. But here's what I've discovered over the last 6 months. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's regulated by wearing a more attractive mask. Jessica mentioned something during the phone call that has resonated with me ever since. How many of our preferences aren't actually our preferences? How many of our choices have been influenced by their changes over the years? I've been thinking about it a lot. Looking around my flat now that I have my original furnishings back, I feel more like myself than I have in years, but I can't help but worry what else I've unconsciously acclimated to. What's the strangest element about this? Jessica and I have grown closer than we have since we were children. It turns out that siblings can be allies when they are not striving for parental approval or being pitted against one another. We're both approaching this weekend's conversation with defined limits and shared expectations. Our parents can choose to accept our liberty and maintain a good relationship with us, or they can continue to exert control over us and have a very limited relationship with us. For the first time in my life, I am not concerned about their reaction. Jessica and I have each other's backs, and that seems stronger than any guilt trip they could hurl at us. I'll update after the chat, but I'm optimistic. Not because I believe they will change, leopards, spots, and all that, but because Jessica and I have evolved. We recognize the trend now, and we will not ignore it any longer. Sometimes the best family ties are built on your own terms. Final update. The conversation that freed us both. I promised an update following our family gathering, and while I'm not sure anyone expected it to go as it did, I wanted to explain how everything turned out. Jessica and I met at a coffee shop beforehand to go over our talking points once again. We chose to show a united front rather than allow our parents to divide or steer the conversation. We each had a list of non-negotiable boundaries, and we agreed that if they couldn't accept them, we'd both severely limit communication. The meeting was held at their home, in the same living room where I confronted them with the cameras months before. Mom had definitely planned for this conversation. She had strategically placed Kleenex, prominently displayed family photos, and cooked my favorite cookies from childhood. Classic emotional manipulation setup. Dad began by saying how delighted he was that we were finally sitting down as adults to straighten out this misunderstanding. He mentioned the word misunderstanding 4 times in his opening statement. Jessica leaped in first, which shocked me. She has always been more conflict-averse than I am, but something has changed in her since learning the depth of their influence. She gently brought forth what we observed, including years of minor alterations, a pattern of boundary violations, and a coordinated furniture swap plan. Mom's reaction was immediate and expected tears. She told us how much she loved us, how she had always wanted the best for us, and how she couldn't understand why we were attacking her for caring. But here's where the unexpected happened. Dad, instead of coming to Mom's defense, as he always would, went silent, very quiet. He sat there listening to Jessica recount particular instances throughout the years, his expression shifting. When Jessica finished, he turned to Mom and questioned, "Linda, did you really take that painting from her bedroom last year?" Mom's composure cracked somewhat. "It did not match anything else in the room, Richard. It was just sitting there fighting against everything." "But it was hers," Dad explained softly. "She bought it herself." What ensued was the most candid chat our family has ever had. Dad, it turned out, wasn't entirely aware of Mom's remodeling operations. He was aware that she occasionally assisted us in organizing or picking up items for our respective locations. But he had no idea how systematic it was. As we continued to discuss, Dad's countenance shifted from confusion to concern to horror. When Jessica recalled the clothes that had mysteriously vanished throughout the years, Dad looked at Mom and remarked, "That's why Robert asked about his college sweatshirt last Christmas. You told me he had lost it." The facade started to crumble. Mom tried to explain that everything she'd done was out of love and a desire for us to have beautiful things, but even she appeared to recognize how it sounded when presented chronologically. Then, Dad posed the question that altered everything. "Linda, how would you feel if your mother treated you like this?" The hush that ensued was deafening. Mom's relationship with her own mother had been poor for years, in part because Grandma had a history of criticizing Mom's decisions and attempting to fix things in her home when she visited. "That's completely different," Mom said. However, her voice lacked conviction. "How?" Dad inquired. "What is the difference?" Jessica and I simply sat there, watching our father understand that his wife had been steadily assaulting their adult children's autonomy for years. It was like witnessing someone complete a puzzle in real time. The conversation that followed was not easy, but it was authentic. Dad listened to our boundaries and agreed to them right away. Mom took longer to come around, but when Dad started backing us up, her reluctance finally gave way. She did apologize, eventually. Not the staged apology she tried previously, but a genuine one in which she said she was wrong and that our feelings were valid. We introduced new rules. No keys to our flats. No one may enter our spaces without specific permission. No taking or modifying our belongings without our permission. There will be no life plans made unless we are involved in the decision-making process. It's been 2 months since the talk, and things have changed. Better, mostly. Mom still occasionally offers unwanted advice about our design or lifestyle choices, but Dad has gotten pretty skilled at deflecting her. "Linda, they didn't ask." "For suggestions" is now his catchphrase. Jessica and I have stayed close throughout this. We text frequently, hang out without our parents, and have developed our own relationship independent of familial dynamics. It's strange having a sister who is on my team for the first time in our adult lives. What's the funniest part about this? My apartment has never felt more like home. I've added some new pieces in the last few months, things I choose and that reflect my tastes. Every time I look at my black leather couch or dark wood coffee table, I am reminded that I am in control of my own home. Jessica has also been remodeling her home, carefully selecting items that Mom would most likely dislike. She purchased an excellent abstract painting with bright colors and unusual designs. Mom hasn't said anything about it, but I noticed her looking at it with a sad face on. Their last visit. Some of you have questioned whether I believe our parents will change in the long run, and to be honest, I'm not sure. Mom still exhibits controlling behavior, and old habits die hard. The difference now is that Jessica and I are looking for it. We have each other's backs and aren't scared to speak up. Dad has become an unexpected ally in all of this. He started seeing Mom's dominating conduct in other situations and gently redirecting her. It's as if he's finally recognized the pattern he'd been missing for years. Looking back, I believe the furniture swap arrangement was the nicest thing that could have occurred to us. If Mom had followed her slow method, we might not have realized what was going on. However, she became greedy and made a major move too quickly, unwittingly exposing years of boundary infractions. Our connection with our parents isn't perfect, but it's honest. We're all adults who have chosen to be in each other's lives on our own terms, rather than acting under some inherited family dynamic that none of us have really explored. And honestly, I prefer them this way. Mom now asks for permission before offering decorating recommendations. When Dad wants to help me with something, he first makes sure I want it. It's a minor adjustment, but it makes all the difference. Jessica and I have discussed creating a book called How Our Mother's Interior Design Obsession Accidentally Taught Us About Boundaries. We probably won't do it, but the title makes us chuckle. For anyone coping with similar family boundary concerns, here's what I learned. It is sometimes necessary to put the relationship at risk in order to save it. Standing up to your family is intimidating, especially if you've been taught to avoid conflict. However, the alternative, living your entire life according to someone else's preferences, is frightening. Additionally, having allies makes things easier. If Jessica and I had attempted to address this independently, our parents would have likely been able to split and conquer us. But presenting a united front made it hard for them to pit us against one another. My apartment is now fully mine. I don't need the security cameras anymore. My locks have changed and will stay that way. And every piece of furniture in this house is something I choose, something that expresses who I am rather than who others believe I should be. It is a minor win in the great scheme of things, but it feels enormous to me. I'm 33 years old, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I have complete control over my own space, including my black leather couch. Still the best place in the world to watch Netflix on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you to everyone who followed this adventure and provided encouragement along the road. Sometimes you need strangers on the internet to validate that yes, your circumstance is as unusual as you think it is. And no, you are not exaggerating. Families are complicated, but borders simplify everything.